Hello and welcome back to Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. I'm Wombadger and this is episode 9, I believe. And in this episode, things are going to be changing up quite a bit for the state of our republic, so to speak. I've not been too happy with the slow progression that's been going on. So what I'm doing here is creating a bit of a stimulus, if you will, to cater more to the rapid expansion that I'm interested in doing. And that rapid expansion is going to be not in the area we've been building already. That's going to continue going how I've laid it out. But this rapid expansion is starting almost not necessarily the opposite end of the map, but it's all the way on the other end of the river, the secondary river, not the one running through Lessie, but the one just north of that, I guess, and all the way down at the end near the western border. There you could just see the customs house of the western border there. And what I'm doing here now, just setting up a more or less a supply point. It's going to be construction supplies as well as general supplies, so I can import stuff for dollars here and not have an absurd delivery cost, and I can just deliver it myself. And what I'm going to end up doing is build into the city that I'm right next to and get that city rolling. Now the idea to make money here to begin with, the initial industry, is going to be power plants. And a single power plant on its own isn't going to be enough to fund all of the imports needed for this one city. So I'm going to have to build a couple of power plants. And I'm going all out here. So this is, this is the plan, rapid expansion, just going all out. And so you'll see here I'm trying to figure out where I want to place my power plants. So now I've got a general idea. This area looks nice, big, and flat. I'll be able to put in a few power plants. I want to space them a bit so that I can run a rail line through there, because even though these power plants don't require a whole lot of workers, I just really like using trains to deliver people and resources. Now they do require a fair bit of coal, and our coal, if you saw the last episode, is going to be being mined really far away and processed almost as far away. So it's definitely going to have to come in by rail, at least until I set up a more localized source of coal, which I don't have any plans for that right now. Perhaps I'll get around to that sometime in the future, but short term I have no plans to set up any more coal, because I think once that coal is up and running over there, it's going to be all we'll need for quite some time. But in that case, we definitely have to bring the coal in by train, which is why I wanted that aggregate unloading station right there in the center of all 4 of these power plants. And then since I'm already putting in a station for coal, I might as well bring in workers as well too. It just works out pretty well. And there you go. You can see I got the unloading station going into 2 separate large storage areas, and for each one of those large storage areas will supply 2 of the 4 power plants. So here I've got my rails in place. Gonna go ahead and throw some roads in there, and I'm using the upgraded roads so that people getting off the trains at those platforms will have an easier time of making the journey to their place of work. And in case you're wondering, no, I'm not planning on letting my construction companies go through and construct all this, because that would be counterproductive to the intention here, which is a stimulus. Get everything rolling a lot faster, smoother, so to speak. So I am going to be auto-building a majority of this. I'm not going to build all of these power plants right away. As you'll see, I'm just going to start with the one and get the system operational. And that's when I discovered, once I got the system operational, what I had assumed was true, which one power plant isn't going to be able to support the economy of this city over here. But I think 2 power plants could. Now this does kind of tie into the whole theme of the game, I suppose you could say, you know, for role-playing purposes. You know, you got we started over near the eastern border, and we're playing the game, developing it, everything's going nicely. Now all of a sudden, we're getting pressure from our western border. And what is the western border going to do? It's gonna catch up. It's gonna catch up real fast, and it's gonna try and compete. It's gonna throw everything it's got at it. It is kind of contradictory in the sense that we're using rubles primarily to build this. And on that point, it's not a smart decision economically to build this far away from the eastern border using rubles, because we are paying a premium at that point. However, we do have a successful economy regarding the rubles right now. We are making rubles hand over fist with our export of bugs. And yeah, there was a new train came out. I had to go check it out. It's not quite the DRG that I'm using, but it looks decent enough. I had to go check it out. So it would be, back to what I was saying, it would be much more economical and sensible to be building all of this with dollars, since we are like right on the western border. But I don't have a good supply of dollars right now, and as you can see, I'm fairly low on the dollars. And even once I get this power plant rolling, I'm not going to be making a profit in dollars still. Because of all the imports, I will still be losing about $20,000 a month. And that's with the one power plant rolling. Whereas I'm still making between 200,000 and 400,000 rubles a month. Which that ruble income just keeps going up. The price of those bugs just keeps going up month after month. And so I'm just making more and more every month. Which is why usually at this point in the game, if I go with an oil refinery, that oil refinery has dropped off from, you know, early on. As soon as it hits full production, you know, that oil refinery might be making 500,000 rubles a month, but at this point it usually has dropped off to about 200, 250. And it'd usually be another couple of years before it started picking up again. And of course the reason for that is, I've gone over it before, I think in a couple of episodes. I think the episode 1 where I was explaining why I chose to go with the vehicle factory to begin with. And that was because the oil refinery is a bit self-defeating, and the fact that you end up producing so much fuel and bitumen that you drive the price of those down fairly rapidly. And so you start off making a real good chunk of change off that refinery, but it drops off, and it takes a few years for it to bounce back. And that's if you're importing your oil. If you're supplying your own oil, it drops off even faster. Because by importing your oil, you're driving the price of oil up. You drive the price of oil up, you drive the price of oil products up. If you're supplying your own oil, well, that oil price isn't going to be rising very much. And because you're not importing a lot of it. And then if you're exporting all your excess oil, because if you're able to supply an oil refinery with all the oil it needs, you're probably going to be producing a lot of extra oil as well. So you'd probably be exporting oil on top of that, which would drive the price of oil down, which would drive the price down even faster. Which is the one downside to the oil refinery, and why I don't like to start with just an oil refinery. If I start with an oil refinery, I like to have some other industries to go along with it and complement it. And a vehicle factory is a perfect complement for an oil refinery, because that way you can have your vehicle factory cranking out all the vehicles you need to get your Republic rolling, also while building up a nice stockpile of fuel and bitumen to pave roads. But then you can also export all that fuel and bitumen, and then you'll have all your vehicles, you'll have all you need to run them, you'll have all the bitumen to pave all your roads. They go hand in hand fairly well. And then, you know, as your oil production increases or whatnot, you can crank out some more oil tanker trucks, transport them easier. That is, if you go with trucks for it, which the oil refinery, it's definitely best to use trains with it, because you're dealing with a pretty high volume when you're dealing with the oil refinery. So anyway, here we go. We're expanding into town. I've thrown down my shopping center, a road depot, so I can have trucks parked up with excess resources that they'll be dropping off. I went through, upgraded a lot of the roads. Right now I'm just kind of fixing some visual glitches in the roads. I don't know why it does that. It's kind of strange. It seems to be whenever there's a bunch of those weirdly placed paths. I don't understand some of the path placement in these pre-built cities. Like they're just weird how they're in there, first off. And yeah, they create a lot of issues with it. But I get it working, and I keep finding little spots here and there. So I cleared out all the paths. Now I'm going to go back and try and put them back in, and for whatever reason that isn't working. And it takes me a few minutes to figure out, you know, these roads are a little bugged right now. I've never had that happen before, but I'll go with it. So then I'm going to go through here and throw in a bunch of paths where I think they're needed. And then I'll continue putting in some more necessities for these people. And meanwhile, the game's running and stuff. These people are getting pissy because they don't have anything to make them happy. But it's a risk I'm willing to take, because I've got more people than I need, even at this point. And even this city, I'm not going to be using a whole lot of the population here for industries for quite a while, because power plants don't take a whole lot of manpower. They don't take much at all. So and this is a fairly large city here, so there's going to be a lot of extra people. So it's finally happened. We have expanded into a city, and yes, I did this. I kind of bent the rules I was following. Those rules being, you know, going from our starting point and expanding into the city, where I got impatient and jumped to the other side of the map and just went nuts. But that being said, I think it needed to be done. I think we definitely needed this stimulus, and I'm hoping this little stimulus project of mine doesn't fail. Because if it does, we're just gonna shut it all down and march back over to the eastern border and continue on where we were. And this whole city here will eventually clear out. Everybody will abandon it, and it'll just be another empty Soviet city. Yep. Definitely gonna need that fire station. And I may or may not forget to supply it with workers. And speaking of supplying workers, the ultimate plan is to train people up there. I say train people. Run a train for the workers to go up to the power plants. But to start with, I'm not going to throw in that rail all the way just yet. I'm not going to throw in train platforms down at the city just yet. Got bus platforms in that I needed in order to transport the people around and get people to the shopping area and to the school area. And on top of that, until I get the train going up there, I'm just going to have people being bussed up to the power plant. So there we go, getting the shopping center going, and want to, before it gets completely built. Well, I guess it could be completely built because I don't have imports set on it, but I will be importing meat there. And if you don't know this already, if you have meat in storage and that storage building doesn't have power, that meat will slowly deteriorate. It will just start ticking down in the amount that is there. It accounts for refrigeration being off and meat rotting. Now, it's not 100% accurate because it just ticks down instead of it all just going bad. Which, from a gameplay standpoint, is beneficial. Because if you have, you know, one of those meat lockers full of meat, which is what, like 75 tons of meat, and all of that goes bad, that's really expensive. So, got all that medium voltage wire run. Looks like, yeah, the high voltage is already in there. I guess I did that when I wasn't paying attention. So we got the foreign power connection tab open up there. Gonna throw in a vehicle depot here so I can get some of those buses rolling. I still haven't turned the power on yet, I don't think. Yep, I just realized I hadn't put a school in. So now I'm going to go around and select all the people that I want showing up at the bus stops. Don't need any passengers waiting up by the shopping center. I'm going to throw in a few kindergartens, and I think I throw in more than I actually need. I mean, I know I do because I don't need all of the workers in this city. So really, I didn't need any kindergartens because if somebody couldn't go to work, there's plenty of other people who aren't going to have a job who could fill in for them. But it's you know, that's just part of planning for the future. I'll have my backside covered that way. Because that's the biggest issue with these pre-built cities is if you don't come through and demolish them, you're very limited for space in that starting area. Like, it's really difficult, and you got to be really cognitive about where you're placing what, because there's so many things that they need, and there's so little space to put it. And even still, like you see here, I had to throw in bus stops to get people to the shopping center and the schools because there was no way I was going to be able to get full coverage without just putting down a ridiculous amount of buildings. I could have put in a couple of other small shopping centers or whatnot, but I found that this works just fine, bussing them over. And got the 3 bus stops and have 3 buses just going on a constant loop on it, taking students around, passengers around. Not going to be taking any workers around on that loop. And so here I'm setting up these little delivery vehicles, and in a little while, a few minutes, I'll come to realize, you know, yeah, these little delivery vehicles, they're great for everything except the food. The food, I definitely should have gone with a bigger truck, because it just barely keeps up with the consumption. Well, I say barely. It doesn't actually keep up with the consumption. It definitely needs to be a bigger delivery truck for the food. Either that, or I could throw another one on there. So I got those. I got 3 of those running to the shopping center, dropping off, you know, the food, the clothes, electronics. I'm just importing meat directly there at the shopping center because I don't feel like building a meat locker to supply one shopping center. And then I've got that 4th truck rolling up to the pub, dropping off booze. Now I'm getting the work buses rolling, and I'm going to be playing with the routes a little bit with those, trying to figure it out. Like, initially I just have them going to each bus stop. They take a loop around picking up workers at all of the bus stops, and then they go up to the power plant. I'm going to change that to where each one of those goes to one bus stop and then goes to the power plant. And then once I finally remember to send workers to the fire station, and you'll see when that happens, I'll have them go into the fire station and then the power plant to drop off workers. Because it's going to be it's a costly mistake when you forget about your fire department. It's one that it's not too bad in this situation. And yeah, you see here, I'm just kind of sitting back watching the numbers. We just rolled into a new month after I blew all that money. So I'm able to just kind of sit back and see how well this is doing, because now I've got power being exported after that initial jump start of importing it for a little bit and then getting workers up to the power plant, getting the power plant rolling. Finally got power rolling in the other direction. And as you can see, rubles, they're still doing fine. They do excellent every month. Consistently, we do well on rubles. But you can see the dollars just dropping. And here it comes. My oh shit moment. The fire. And this is when I realized I didn't send any workers to the fire station. Not only that, I didn't buy any fire trucks. So I'm gonna make a mad dash here, switch up the bus routes, buy a fire truck, and then I'm gonna watch that drop-off point up by the shopping center that I just built burn to the ground. Yep, need a fire truck. That one'll do. Still need workers. Divert your route, bus. Go to the fire station. Hurry, hurry, it's burning. And it's gone. So, time to rebuild. Yeah, oftentimes those fires can be a lot worse than that. That wasn't too bad, you know, that was just a 7,000, well, with the roads and they're probably 10,000 ruble mistake. But it sorted itself out and we're good to go now. There's workers at the fire station. We've got fire coverage finally. So, all is well. Just have to make a one-time purchase of food because there was absolutely none at the shopping center. There you go. We're about 2/3 of the way through the month. We're sitting at 120-some thousand ruble positive gain. You can also see there the vehicles exported, 234,000 rubles worth of bugs. And just looking through here, trying to figure out what my biggest expense is, and right now it's looking like clothes and, of course, coal, which I expected coal to be one, especially for the dollar, since we're going to be importing coal for a while, until we get that railroad run all the way to the coal area, at which point that coal area probably still won't be completed. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up episode 9 here. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one. And I'll just leave you here with a nice overview of everything we just threw in. Let's go stimulus. Hopefully this package will work.